Hey there, bud. Welcome back to the Hat and Beard Show. We had a nice little week off there. Took a little time off for the Thanksgiving vacation time off thing. Thursday games were kind of screwing with me there a little bit, and unfortunately, I just kind of took this last week off too, because we'll talk about that at the end of the video. We're here to talk about the fact that our beloved Detroit Lions, who were once an up and scrappy newcomer, it was little brother and big brother, everyone patting us on the head. Oh, look at Detroit. They're a young, uppity little team. Oh, look at you guys. You made it to the NFC title game last year. Isn't this fun? Now we are the team who's being heavily scrutinized no matter what we do. If we win by too much. If we lose, well, that only happened one time this year. But as we continue to keep winning, more and more people are criticizing the way that we win. We win by too many points. We pile on too many points. We troll teams too much. Dallas with Dan Skipper lining up at wide receiver. Although incredibly justified, because for decades and decades, the Stripes have absolutely been just taking it to us. And it felt a little nice to get a little bit of revenge, if it were, on the Dallas Cowboys. But that is neither here nor there. We're here to talk about what went down in the Packers game, guys. Now, anybody who is outside of the Detroit Lions organization thinks that Dan Campbell is an absolute mad lad because he consistently and routinely goes for it on fourth down. And we see it coming from all sides. This is not the way you play football, sir. This is not how we go about playing football. We do not go for it on fourth down. Hell, why even have four downs if you're not going to leave that opportunity? Look, Dan Campbell takes advantage of the statistics, okay? Giving myself one more opportunity is better than punting the ball, in his opinion. That's not how we all play it. We all grew up playing football a little bit more conservatively. You play the field position game. You play to win the game. But the game has changed, okay? The game has changed, namely because Dan Campbell is revolutionizing it. Dan Campbell decided to take analytics and emotion, so he uses his heart and his head, and he rolls the dice. And yes, sometimes it sucks. Last year in Dallas, right? We all just, after the second attempt at that two-pointer, we all just kick the point. Kick the ball, Dan. Kick it. But that's not who Dan Campbell is. And we as Lions fans all know this. Dan Campbell is not going to play the game that you want him to play. Dan Campbell, just like our team, is going to force you, the opponent, to play my game. We are not just out here playing a game. We are playing Detroit Lions football, whether it's in Ford Field or on the road. Our fandom travels, and they know and expect what Dan Campbell's going to do. Our players, they don't think he's crazy. If Jared Goff thought that Dan Campbell was a madman, would he have re-signed? Would he be in the running for league MVP? Would he be nominated for a second time in 3 years of being in Detroit? 4 years, 3 years of being nominated as the Walter Payton Man of the Year award recipient for the Detroit Lions? And cheers to Jared Goff. We will talk about that later on towards the end of the year, because you guys know around here I am big on the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. We're not getting into that now. We're here to talk about Dan Campbell and how the media is scrutinizing him, because how dare Dan Campbell go for it on fourth down deep inside enemy territory, when you have a kicker that's got a gigantic leg in Jake Bates. We all know this. I've been beating the Jake Bates war drum since his time with the Panthers. Okay. We know Jake Bates has the leg. And yet Dan Campbell went for it on fourth down inside enemy territory. Why? Well, a lot of people will tell you, you don't do this because what happens if something bad goes wrong? If this was college ball, Jared Goff would have been down. Well, it's not. If something bad could happen, but it didn't. Instead, what Dan Campbell did is he took the ball away from Green Bay. He said, look, I've been in this organization long enough. I've been a player. I've been a coach. I've been around the league long enough to see what happens. I listen to the fan base. I hear the cries of the fans here in Detroit, across the nation, all of us Motor City muscle who've just been beaten down over the years. He knows what happens when you give, of all teams, the Green Bay Packers that little bit of daylight. When you give Green Bay, especially the way that they were playing in the second half of the Thursday night game, when you are the Detroit Lions and you give, of all teams, the Green Bay Packers that opportunity, it always goes bad. Something always goes wrong. And Dan Campbell said, you know what? We have a MASH unit for a defensive team right now. Our guys are playing with their hair on fire, giving it all they got, right? Guys are getting hurt. Brian Branch was continuously cramping up because he was just playing lights out ball. Our secondary just could not get any takeaways on Jordan Love, right? We could get pressure, but it's not the Aiden Hutchinson pressure that we're used to getting, right? So Dan Campbell said, you know what, Aaron Glenn? Don't worry about it. Me and Ben Johnson are going to take care of business. And they did. Because our team knows what to expect out of the coach. Did you see Jared Goff even pretend to walk off the field when it hit fourth down? Whole team knew what they were going to do. And what did we do? We lined up in a heavy formation. And yeah, Graham Glasgow stepped on Jared Goff's foot because that's what happens when you're a Michigan grad, okay? He's a Michigan grad. He's going to stomp on people's feet, right? And yes, if this was NCAA ball, Jared Goff would have been down. But in that same vein, if my grandmother had been born with wheels, say it with me now, guys, she'd have been a wagon. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, guess what? It's the NFL, not college ball. So it doesn't fucking matter. So Jared Goff, giving an Iron Man effort, getting stomped on, falling down, gets the ball into Monty's hands. Scout's honor. David Montgomery, bulldozing his way behind the future Hall of Fame right tackle Penei Sewell. I needed inches. And David Montgomery's not going to settle for inches. Our offensive line is going to move the line of scrimmage more than inches, and we got it. We nailed it right up. Jared Goff is able to take the next snap on first down, kneel down on the hash that Jake Bates wanted. Jake Bates went out there, and he friggin' nailed it. Right down the pike. The ballad of Jake Bates continues. And who do we have to thank for that? Who do we have to thank for not giving another opportunity to the Green Bay Packers? Another opportunity where we've seen Aaron Rodgers hit Hail Marys. This was a chance for Jordan Love to go and make his mark on the rival Detroit Lions, who I know Green Bay doesn't view us as a rival, but all of us here in the Motor City hate the Packers. I hate the Packers. And instead of giving Jordan Love that opportunity to make some Green Bay magic in the Motor City, Dan Campbell, as the head coach of the Detroit Lions, the buck stops with Dan. And what did he do? He slammed the door shut on the Green Bay Packers just like he did 2 years ago in Lambeau. He slammed the door on them. He knows how important this game is to the fandom. And he took the ball out of the Packers' hands. And he said, our game. You're going to play our game in our house on prime time. This is our division. This is our division. And we are going to take the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Now, why am I so fired up about all this? Because over here, SportsIllustrated.com, Rob Parker says Lions Dan Campbell is a, quote, bad coach. Now, there is a difference between being a mad lad and being a bad coach. Dan Campbell is a mad lad. Zach Taylor is a bad coach. Okay? Do you see the difference? How is Dan Campbell a bad coach when he has 15 defensive players on IR? When he has who would have been the league MVP in Aiden Hutchinson on IR for 2/3 of the season with a broken leg. No Alex Anzalone, the man who Dan Campbell brought in from New Orleans to call the defense. No Alex Anzalone. No Malcolm Rodriguez. Our top rush edge is a guy that we traded for, a 32-year-old veteran that we traded for at the trade deadline. Bless you, Zadarius Smith. What an addition. What an absolute dog. 3 sacks in 5 games. Muhammad. Was it Aloqueen Muhammad? Coming out of nowhere. I would say Jamal Adams, but he jumped on Lee McNeil's head and basically took him out of the game. So we got a bunch of scrubs. David Long Jr. Dude, you know, that dude had 100 tackles 2 years ago. So there are guys, but our defense is not good. I mean, our defense is good, but there's just... we're barely keeping it together. It is 4077 MASH unit down there in Detroit, okay? So if Dan Campbell was a bad coach, how would he be winning games with such a beaten down, broken defense? Well, coaching staff for one, and who put the coaches in position to succeed? Dan Campbell. So Rob Parker draws the ire of Lions fans with a bold opinion about Dan Campbell. This is coming from our guy John Macaron 4 hours ago. Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell may be the most heavily scrutinized coach in NFL history that is sitting at 12-1. But he's a bad coach. He's got a 12-1 team with an afterthought quarterback, a bust running back with David Montgomery, an undersized wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, a second-round draft pick tight end when there were guys going in the first round. Why did we wait and take Sam Laporta? How is he a bad coach? Scrutinized, 12-1. Bunch of guys. A bunch of dogs out there playing. And what we're seeing here, I'm going to be honest, I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag right now. What we're seeing here is nothing more than the mainstream media tearing down a strong man. Because the mainstream media hates to see strong men succeed. The fourth-year coach has been at the center of debate among pundits and NFL fans regarding the decision to be so aggressive on 4th down. But it doesn't matter, because a W was on the board. While the Lions have had a decent success rate going for it on 4th down, Campbell decided to go for it on his own side of the field again late in the game against Green Bay Packers. Right. And they scored. And we went down. And then we came back. And we won. So it doesn't matter. The Lions, in fact, you could say that it gave us the opportunity to win because instead that freed up a good couple minutes on the game clock that allowed us to play our offense in the fourth quarter and really break the back of the Green Bay Packers. The Lions did not convert on one of the Campbell's gambles against the Packers and subsequently gave up a touchdown. Oh my God, we let them score. Whatever will we do? The Lions did not convert. I read that. Late in the game, the decision to go for it sealed Detroit's 12th victory of the season. Late in the game, the decision to go for it sealed the victory. But I thought it was a bad call. How can it seal a victory? How is it a good thing when he's a bad coach? Analytics have become a factor in the decision making of NFL coaches, yet fans and pundits still have not accepted that the popular head coach wants his football team to play aggressive. Exactly. We live in a society where strong male values and aggressiveness are frowned upon, especially by the mainstream media. They do not want to see a strong man succeed. They want to see him torn down. They want to talk shit. They want to pull him down. Crabs in a bucket. How dare you succeed, Dan Campbell? You should not be succeeding, Dan Campbell. You are not playing the game the way that we think you should play the game. How are you succeeding? I don't know. You know, there's this guy, God, I keep hitting my microphone. Total or sidebar here. There's this guy, okay? And comment down below if you recognize the name. Comment his name if you recognize the individual. Who is a South African immigrant, okay? And he has a company. And this company, all of the experts told him, there is absolutely no way you will be able to reuse a rocket and have an arm grab it out of the middle of the air. It cannot be done. That's not how we do things. That is not how we decide you should do things. And he said, you know what? I think you're wrong. I'm going to play the game the way I want to play the game. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And if it works, right here. And if it doesn't work, oh well. I'll figure something else out. And guess what? Why don't you go ahead and look up that little company? It's called SpaceX. Sometimes the world gets turned because men march to a beat of their own drum. Because they don't fall in line. Because they don't sit in class and have someone, here, take a piece of paper, pass it down. Take a piece of paper, pass it down. Don't ask questions. If you ask questions, you're going down to get in trouble. Don't ask questions. Do what we tell you. Take your 15-minute break. Don't ask questions. Take a piece of paper, pass it down. Don't ask questions. Do what we tell you. Remember what we tell you and regurgitate it onto a piece of paper. Don't ask questions. Do what we tell you. We know what's best. We've been doing it longer than you. And then in comes a bull in a china shop. A guy who's just going to tear it all down and says, you know what? I think I have a better way of doing it. I think that if you knock the corners off of them squares and smooth it down, you might get a wheel. And Dan Campbell's that motherfucker. And everybody hates him for it. Because nobody wants to see a strong man fight an uphill battle and win. We want to see everybody torn down. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Let's just listen to what this Rob Parker, and I'm sorry, Rob Parker. Who are you? You work for FS1. You are the B team of the D team of sports. I do a better job than you, okay? FS1, why don't you call me? I'll do his job for half his salary. And I'll do it better. This douche nozzle. Let's just play the Rob Parker clip because this guy just sticks his foot right in his own mouth. So this is coming to you from FS1 on YouTube. Of course, we gotta.
Should you expect more from your
try and edit this out?
Treatment? Ask your doctor how Kisqali can do more.
Oh, by the way, while we read that little ad, make sure and inquire to your doctor about drugs that you might not need because keep ramping up them pharmaceutical sales. Hey, let's just put everybody on Ozempic. Are you too fat? Do you not want to work out? Is not shoving 85 Oreos in your face too hard? Is walking too hard? Then take fucking Ozempic. God damn, yo. And you wonder why people are just fucking dying from the inside out about random shit. Because you all eat poison, you inject poison, you're too fucking lazy to walk your fat ass around the block. You want to suck down Diet Cokes and go, well, it says diet, so I can have 4 of them. Go fuck yourself. You're the same person who thinks Dan Campbell's a madman. Go fuck yourself. All right, come on, Rob Parker. Let's get this on.
Oh, here. The
Don't
Lions.
worry about all that.
Yeah, what's going on there? The Lions get
Yep.
for 31, a late field goal to ice the game.
Key word, Lions won. That's all that matters. That's all that matters is that we won the game.
And, of course, Lions coach Dan Campbell's being talked about all day, and there's no way that we cannot address Dan Campbell either.
Yeah, there is.
And I'm going to say this
there
right
is.
off
There
the bat.
totally is. You can just not talk about it because it's a non-issue. You're giving credence to a non-issue. You're continuing to give legs to something that doesn't need legs. You're trying to stir up controversy where there is no controversy. What the fuck is your problem, man? God, this guy's...
Dan Campbell, for as much credit and people are all excited about him, I think he's a bad coach. And
I think he's a bad coach. Who are you, Rob Parker? How many teams have you coached? Professional, collegiate, semi-pro, varsity, junior varsity, little league. How many men have you led? Clearly, when you look at this guy, I just see a strong leader of men, just like Dan Campbell. This guy sits from the back. Dan Campbell's damn near the face of the franchise because he's out there leading his men by example.
I think he's worse than Brandon Staley when he was with the Chargers, who got fired.
He thinks he's worse than
Brandon.
Y'all, I can't even with this clown, yo.
Why? This is not being provocative or trying to change the game or having cojones or whatever. This is reckless.
No.
And
look, genius and insanity are the same side of a coin, dude. There is not a lot of difference. This is not reckless. This is Dan Campbell ball. This is what we know. Dan Campbell is who we think he is, okay? He's got... All this shows to me is that this is another example of, even though we're the best team in the NFL, we still will not get the respect that we are due because Jared Goff, because we do it as a team, because why? Because we're not a major media market. That's why. Because Detroit's a failed city. Because a certain group of people have ruined what was once the wealthiest city in America, if not the world, dubbed the Paris of the Midwest. If we were still a thriving economic hub of the United States, like New York, like LA, we would be getting the respect that we are due. Dan Campbell would be heralded as a genius. But because it's Detroit, because we're the Lions, he's called a madman, a bad coach. Dan Campbell is not a bad coach. Dan Campbell deserves to win Coach of the
Year. The reason I say he's a bad coach and ultimately will wind up costing the Lions a chance at a trip to the Super Bowl or even a chance to win it is because what he's doing is unnecessary and putting his team in harm's way. And it worked out last night. Thank God it wasn't college rules, right?
Because if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, if my grandma had been born with wheels, she'd have been a wagon. Oh my God, we can play this game. Well, what if Jared Goff's dick fell off at the 50-yard line? Fucking douche nozzle.
When Jared Goff fell down, you know he would have been down right? That would have been it. He would have been down at that spot. And I'm just saying, you don't want to do that if you don't have to, going for it 4-1 inside the 30. I read some stat where no team...
But we had to. We had to because Green Bay does weird shit to us in the waning seconds of a fourth quarter. We had to. It had to be done. You don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Fucking douche.
25 years since 2000 that even been done. And again, you guys who I understand Lions fans, and you're one of them, you love the guy because you endured all the terrible years, okay? I get it. And you're like, oh, they're on the cusp. And this is the guy, he's fearless and this and that. But if you're really honest.
He's fearless, which is why me, probably you, and that 53-man roster, every single one of them will run through a fucking brick wall for Dan Campbell. This dude won't even run to the bathroom if he's got shit in his ass.
Dan Campbell cost you a trip to the Super Bowl last year with the chicanery.
No, starting Kindle Vildor as your number one corner out. I guess technically your number two, but having Cameron, I can't turn my hips Sutton, and Kindle Vildor is the reason why we didn't go to the NFC Championship game. I also have a theory that we beat San Francisco up so physically bad that that's why they are falling off this year, is because they tangled with the Lions before the Super Bowl. And as is the case, every team we play is beaten down and busted up the next week. Dan Campbell going for it on fourth down did not cost us that game. Let's be honest, we were out of our depths last year. That was not, we shouldn't. It was awesome to be in the NFC title game, but we weren't ready yet. And it was evident. We ran out of gas. We didn't have the guys. We didn't have the players. I feel bad because Kindle Vildor gives it his all, but we've seen him just this year alone getting torched. Right? Dan Campbell going for it on fourth down did not cost us the NFC title game last year, you fucking doorknob. Okay, well, that's that. I'm not going to sit through another fucking ad. Rob Parker, Program Campbell was a bad coach that will eventually cost the Lions a chance to play in the Super Bowl. We've already gone over that. If you want to read this quote, it was literally what he just said. Putting the team in harm's way, and it worked out last night. Yep, Lions chance to win, elusive trip to the Super Bowl, or even a chance to win. Yeah, we listened to that. Parker, who is a former beat writer for the columnists in Detroit, puts the blame on the Lions losing to the 49ers. Dude, if you're... Y'all, if you are a former beat writer for the Detroit Lions, you should know this! Everything I just said should not be news to you. Doorknob. You don't want to do it if you don't have to. Going forward on 4th and 1 inside the 30, I read some stat. We heard that. You're like, oh, they're on the cusp. And this is the guy. He's humble. He's fearless. And this and that. He is. Dan Campbell is a very humble individual. For being this big, intimidating, physical, fierce guy, he's a real humble, chill everyman, right? I mean, who doesn't want to hang out with Dan Campbell, dude? But if you're really honest, Dan Campbell cost you a trip to the Super Bowl? No, he didn't. With the chicanery and all that, he's going to do it again. He hasn't learned his lesson. Except for we're winning. You play to win the game. The Lions will face the Bills next week at Ford Field, continuing their quest for the number one seed in the NFC. Home field advantage. All right, cool. And here's a little bit about the artist. John McCron, I've read your stuff for a few times here on this channel now. I actually kind of like what he does. He's covered Detroit sports since 2013 and brings a vast array. All right, cool. So that's that for that. Let's just look at this bad head coach, though. I got Dan Campbell's stats. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4 years. First year, 3-13-1, and it was rough goings. Oh, would you look at here? 2022. Ben Johnson is now your offensive coordinator. 9-8. A 9-8 run where we bounced the Packers out of the from making the playoffs and sent Aaron Rodgers to the Meadowlands. Second year, he's already gone from 3-13-1 to a winning record 9-8. Turned it around. But he's a bad head coach. Oh, would you look at that? Last year, we went 12-5. 2-1 in the playoffs. With an organization that shouldn't have been there. Won the division. Was competing for number one seed. Yeah, 12-5. Dan Campbell's a bad head coach. Oh, would you look at that? 2024. We've already matched our win totals from last year. 12-1. With a MASH unit defense. But Dan Campbell's a bad head coach. Stupid. It's all just stupid, man. It's just, I can't believe it. But that's the world we live in, man. We live in a world where if a strong man makes something of himself, goes out and gets opportunities, calls up Sheila Ford Hamp and says, hey, I want to be the coach of the Detroit Lions. Goes after something. He's hungry. He's aggressive. He goes after and he gets his. and we're supposed to criticize him for it. No, Dan Campbell, you're supposed to sit back on your haunches. You're supposed to let the system play out. Wait your turn. Play the game we tell you to play. Play the game we want you to play. Do it the way that we tell you is the right way to do it. And Dan Campbell told them to go fuck themselves. So, let me know in the comments down below, is Dan Campbell a mad lad or is he a bad coach? I think he's a mad lad, and I am here for it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it, and I think you guys are too. So comment down below what you guys think. That's going to be about it. So I just wanted to, now that we've reached the end of the video, we've kind of gotten a little long-winded here, but if you're still hanging out with me, I genuinely appreciate it. And some of you sharper, more eagle-eyed folks will notice that we do have a different studio here, actually. We are now in Grandma Studio 1 instead of Garage Studio 1. So the room I'm in now is it's an empty room that we had in the house. And this used to be my grandmother's sewing room. So you can see the nice floral wallpaper. And we moved some stuff around. Hat and Boobs helped me kind of clean things out a little bit here. We're gonna kind of keep getting rid of some stuff. Eventually I'm thinking about maybe putting a TV up here. Hooking my PlayStation up to it so that not only can I live stream or stream like some game action, some Madden and stuff in the off season to kind of help satiate that desire for football, but I'm also kind of thinking about getting into doing the live stream play-by-play of games. Let me know what you guys think about that. I think it'd be kind of fun. I've seen some guys do it. Every channel I've seen do it, it seems like a lot of fun, right? And I think we should get in on that. I appreciate you guys sticking around, hanging out. I know last couple weeks was kind of weird. Chase, if you're watching this, clearly I haven't used OBS yet or changed anything. Analysis paralysis, my guy. I've just been too stressed out. So, all right. If you stuck with me this long, I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you guys tomorrow with a power rankings update video. I've been Hat and Beard. You've been an attentive audience. Banga banga. Brig off.